Man, boys is getting quiet. Going to get crunk. Head back to Longview, Kelly popping trunk. I ain't even tripping. Riding and I'm sipping. Let me come through 4-4 steady tipping. On that new lap. Watch the trunk crack. Let me sit sideways, CB running back. Maybe AP, maybe AD. I ain't even tripping cause we some athletes. Messing with Smitty in the summertime. He get pissed if we don't make our time. But we gon' get it cause we gotta finish. Nebraska Horn Hustlers, man, we diminish. Put them boys little, paint like a skittle. I ain't even tripping, I ain't never double dribble. Cause I'm a player from the Himalaya. Let me sit sideways, man. Maybe back door, maybe fall off. Sipping codeine cause I gotta kill a cough. Let me sit sideways in the big Benz. Oh, you boys, they my brothers, they my friends. Holla at Coach Sumlin, holla at the Stoops. Let me sit sideways in the two-door coupe. Cause I'm sitting clean, foes on the lean. Look at my pants, got a sag in my jeans. Let me sit sideways cause I'm steady coming. PT throwing that ball, let us humming. I'ma gon' catch it, I'ma gon' wretch it. Man, I'm sitting sideways, boy, show naked today.
All right, welcome to Fullback U. And, again, I always say that I'm blessed, but today I have two family members on. I've got Coach Mike Stoops and his lovely wife, Miss Erin Stoops. We're going to start with you first. Erin, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Coach Mike, how are you?
Doing great, JD. Happy to be on with you and look forward to visiting.
I'm completely honored. I can't explain to you all what this means to me. I know it's been just rough. Let's just get right to it. Erin, what has this last year been like for you?
I think the only way to describe it is a roller coaster. I've told my friends that I feel like I'm, going through a divorce because you go through this roller coaster of emotion and you grieve. You're grieving a loss, but also you just got to keep moving forward and looking, to the future and what the future has to bring to you.
Injuries, suspensions, all that.
It's just a lot of, defections, players leaving, getting kicked off. So there's been a lot of, the bottom line is just a roller coaster, defensively. A lot of good in games, a lot of bad. I think a lot of it, you reminisce about the Rose Bowl, that game goes through my head constantly. From a year ago, and I think that just led into some of the uncertainty in this game, and then obviously the public opinion carries so much weight anymore, which I think is ridiculous, but that's the world we live in, and it's changed a great deal in the last 20 years for sure.
Erin, football, and I'm sure you heard Mike talk about it plenty. What do you think the defense was missing this year?
A united front. And I don't mean the defensive line. I mean a united front in leadership. I think it's important that to be successful, you have to have coaches that are all on the same page and support each other. And that carries down to the entire defense and then the entire team. And, ultimately, you can't be successful if you guys aren't on the same page and you're not, working together for the same goal.
Coach Mike, same question, and then also, what was your message to the team when you felt things were going bad?
Oh, this has been again. This is a difficult position for any coach in this league. I think over the last 2 or 3 years, or you could see this the ability for these teams to throw the football, run the football, the quarterback play, the receiver play has been probably at an all-time high over the last few years, and our inability to counter, some of those, great quarterback, receiver, running back combinations And the coaching that we're seeing the offensive coaching in this league, I think is the most undervalued element of the Big 12, and you can see, these are some outstanding football coaches, know how to move the football, but the lack of continuity, leadership to me has always been critical, and that starts from obviously coach, the head coach, to the defensive coordinator, to the the seniors, to the positions, to the leaders. As you know, we always had strong leadership and not fake leadership.
No, because fakeness always gets exposed.
Oh, true that. True that.
I think everything comes to light, and with players, coaches, and there's again, blame is can go around a lot of different ways, and we certainly didn't do good enough, and that was disappointing. And watching them end that way was disappointing as well. But it's everyone gets a new start, me included, and I think that's what you do. You look back, you learn from your lessons, and you move forward. And hopefully the players do too. I think they need to look inward, and the ability is one thing, but desire, effort, toughness,
heart,
that you can't. Those are things that you have to have to be successful. And those are some things that it's hard to say that we lacked as a defense. And to say that at Oklahoma, I take a lot of responsibility for that, and that probably hurts the most, just because I know everything we've stood for over a test of time, here. So, that criticism was earned, and it's unfortunate, but, you have to take that responsibility.
All right. So, Erin, something that you probably are, unfortunately, an expert at. Talk about how much bad mail you guys received, but also tell me how much positive support you've received.
To be honest with you, we've received a lot more positive than negative. And I don't know if Mike knows this. I'll filter things, so I'll get the mail before he sees it.
Very smart.
Open it, and I don't pay attention to the negative stuff. There is some things that you just, it's going to be thrown in your face, but I'm a realist, and I get it to an extent. I don't, when it comes to harassment, stuff like that, I have zero tolerance for it. But I get fans' passion, and I get why they want to win. I get it. There's times where I felt the same way. But for the most part, when people reach out, it's really good stuff. It's, just thanking Mike, and just words of encouragement. And so that's what we really try to keep our focus on.
Coach, I don't even want to go into the hate mail stuff. We both receive a lot of it. So let's just go back to football. If you could change anything about this last year, would you?
Yeah, that's a good question, JD. Sure, I think there's a lot of things that, going in, we tried, systematically to, put 5 DBs on the field to help our coverage and play the field, and just our, lack of depth at safety, I think was tough. Our inability to cover consistently, against really good people. You're going to get tested at the highest level in this league, and tried to just help coverage-wise, with DBs, and that's what, that's modern football. That's football 101. They put 3 wide receivers or 4, you better have 5 or 6 DBs on the field. Absolutely. And that's the first thing you learn. And we tried to play, and I watched, obviously they put Caleb back on the field. That was a hard decision at the beginning of the year to move. What hurt Caleb was his inability to adjust in the spring, because he had the shoulder separation, and he had to do that surgery, and then teaching him a whole new position, going from outside to inside, is extremely difficult. So he was definitely one of our best 11 players, and then putting a young nickel safety in there, /safety, it just couldn't get the production, early on consistently. And so, that was something, Caleb, in speaking with Caleb a lot, I obviously know Caleb better than anybody. I recruited him. Had a lot of conversations about, Caleb thought long term as well as I did, inside backer is going to be his, that you're always looking to project guys. You want their careers to prolong as long as they can. Any football player wants that ability to continue his development as a player. Caleb is an outstanding outside backer, but there's certain things that he does well, certain things he doesn't do well. We thought he'd be a prototypical inside backer. And, that was our thought process through that, in the spring and, trying to get 5 DBs on the field. So, systematically that, that was just, like I said, we just struggled consistently defending, a lot of the passing schemes. Height became an issue for us too. I thought, the receivers, the size of
monsters.
The receivers,
They got some dudes, man.
and our inability to match up, consistently, in those positions, not getting bigger and longer, in the secondary and everywhere. It's a game of length. Length takes up space, and that's what you have to be able to do. So, there's some things that I think we all could have done differently, but schemes, that was our thought process, obviously going into the season, and that was a unified decision. And Caleb, not getting the playing time because Buzzy was playing well, I think that hurt Caleb's, mental development and his play, and then getting him on the field when he made some plays, you saw what he can do. I guess it was one of my last games, maybe the Baylor game, made some great plays, and then came back in Texas and was totally off. So that inconsistency is just a lack of playing time, lack of repetitions, lack of knowledge, and that's that's coaching. And so, moving him back out, I think it was comfortable for him because, as a player, being comfortable is critical. And Caleb became more comfortable. Now, whether that's a long-term deal, that's not, obviously my decision anymore. And it'll be interesting, because I would think from watching, I watch Coach Grinch. He does an unbelievable job. He plays a lot of nickel, plays all nickel to these big wide sets that everybody does. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, what they, how they adapt, with Caleb, because, he can do a lot of things well, but getting Caleb into where he can really utilize all his abilities will be critical to their success, because I think he's one of their, one of the better players, and, he's got a great willingness to be successful. So his development will, I'm not, I got off on a tangent.
No,
that was just philosophically, kind of what we did at the beginning, and there's not a good answer for that, because we took some lumps one way. Some things you played better. You have to build that defense around that Sam Nickel position, and that's where we struggled, trying to find some fluidity there that we can, get comfortable and confident in, and don't feel like we ever got to that place during the first, my first 6 games there. At times did a lot of good things, but when the competition stepped up, we weren't able to adapt as well as we would have liked.
Tell me, to me, there's no coach that's tougher on his players, Erin, but there's also what I saw, no group of players that respected their coach more. Tell me about his relationship with his current players as well as his former players from what you've seen.
I see a big difference, and I think that's because times have changed, obviously. I know, the past players have mad respect for him, and I think a lot of that also has to do with them trusting him, and the people that he coached with at the time, too. I think that, again, going back to the United Front, he was the boss in charge of the defense. He had Brent Venables, who helped as well, and they worked great together. And, now players are more sensitive. They're too self-absorbed. They're too worried about what's on social media and what's in it for them. You're not going to ever be successful if there's not
Unity,
a united front.
Yes, ma'am. No, I completely agree. Coach, We talk about the effects you had, and I've told you off air, but to let our viewers know, I knew how important you were to us the first 5 minutes you were gone. We had a special teams meeting, and nobody the entire year was late. Our special teams meeting started at 1:30. Everybody was in their chair by 1:25. When we were getting ready for K-State, my sophomore year before the Big 12 championship, we have not one, not two, but 3 DBs who are late. Your brother explodes and just heads into the locker room, and I just knew something was up. If you don't mind, talk about, just what that week and that game was like for you, and do you think we win the Natty if you stay?
Oh, those are all hard questions. Obviously, accountability, discipline, toughness. I was brought up on that. We can go back to, we don't want to go back to my father, but, where I grew up in Youngstown. And so we have a history of that. Had that in college playing for Coach Fry and Coach Bill Brazier, one of the most disciplined men me and Bob have ever played for. Extremely tough. Tough love was, is, you don't really understand it until you get to be really a man. And, we want to call these kids men, but they're in that transition.
They still have underdeveloped
brains.
Yeah, they're still trying to learn. And players really still didn't understand why you can be that way. But I think when they come back, they understand it. Not one player said, Coach, I understand everything you were trying to teach me.
I get it now.
I get it now. I mean, whether it's Zach Sanchez of kind of that new breed of kid, or a guy like Roy Williams, or Derek Strait, they understand the game. They let you coach them. But I think what Erin said, when they trust you, you can do anything. You know what I mean? They know you got their back, and they're gonna do anything for you because they knew I was 100% in it for them, not for how I was going to benefit. Now everyone looks like, how am I going to benefit from all this? Whether it's recruiting, whether who gets credit for this, or this guy gets credit for that, and this guy, I didn't. It's like I felt like here I never recruited a damn soul. You know what I mean? I recruited everybody. It's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard of. So, that's what it was. That's what the world has come to, and everyone has to put something on somebody. We recruited as a staff. I recruited my butt off to get, every one of these guys. You try to get involved, but it's just different, now. So, that was, the philosophy back then, and kids would let you coach him hard. There's no one I coach harder than Roy Williams. I mean, he said it for years. But Roy was the most prepared player. He reaped the benefits of the hard work he put in studying and understanding the game. Or Derek Strait. I mean, those guys were. They
were invested.
They always, invested and prepared. I remember Derek Strait playing Roy Williams for 4 years. I don't think the guy ever had more than 3. He's a first-round draft pick. Derek took that challenge personal every day. These guys took it personal every day. They stepped on the field, and I don't know if you see that. You know what I mean? Getting beat was not an option for these guys. It was not an option. If they got beat, they were going to come back and they were going to whoop your ass the next time. I'm telling you.
That's right.
They weren't going to get beat twice. I mean, they're going. Everybody gets beat, but they weren't going to let you consistently beat them. And that's what I respected about the guys there. And then, again, the investment has to be, so great. The preparation, and that's all year round, JD, as you know. And again, the buy-in was extraordinary for those players. And we still have it. I mean, our kids still prepare, but you got to prepare with a purpose, and you got to get better. And so I was very blessed to be around a lot of those guys that and the other thing is being with Brent was such a big part of it. So you talk about trust. That's just the amount of respect we had for each other and how we coached and worked well together. And Jackie Shipp and Bob Jack. We just had a great group.
Your brother.
and Bob was, always a big part of it. So, but, nothing stays the same forever. And, maybe coming back, trying to duplicate something, it's hard to replicate. And, I paid a big price for that. And, but still had some love some of the kids we've coached and
built great relationships
and built. I just think of those guys.
And you wouldn't have met me.
That's true. Very good point.
That's the best part.
I was just going to say, it's got to be joy.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I mean, Roy heard you were going to be here, and he bought you a dang victory cigar, or the congratulations cigar, and he talked about some of those same things of just your impact and how much he wanted to meet with you and how prepared he was. This has been amazing. I'm going to go one more question each, and then we'll do these Twitter questions, and we'll be out of here. Again, just thank you. Erin, any regrets? Will you miss Norman? And what advice do you have for the incoming the next Sooners coaches and players?
I never have regrets. I never do. I'm definitely the type of person that likes to learn from mistakes, and so no regrets. I'm not going to miss Norman because I'm still living in Norman, and Oklahoma is in my blood. I was born and raised here. So I'm always going to have a home here. On top of that, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and nieces and nephews live here. So I do look forward to this new adventure. What was that?
Oh, just any regrets? Will you miss Norman? And then the advice for the Sooners.
Advice for the Sooners coming in, be tough. You have to do your homework off the field if you want to be great. You can't just be complacent, and you have to trust and know that Oklahoma's doesn't have to be the next, the final step in your life or career. You can go on to do great things in the NFL. You can go on, if you put in the time and effort, you're going to be successful, and you got to trust your coaches, every single coach, and you have to have respect for them.
Coach, I'd be doing my listeners a disservice if I didn't ask you some X's and O's. If you can, just describe to me some of the decision-making that goes in. 3-man front versus 4-man front. 3 linebackers versus 4 linebackers. Playing off versus pressing. Just tell me, explain it to me.
Well, I think, having some diversification is key, JD, and whether it's a 3-man, 4-man, give people different looks. So those are, some of the things philosophically, whether you play, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. It's a lot of it is based on personnel. Being able to play at the line of scrimmage, if you're going to bump people, you can't get beat over the top. And if you play off, they're going to throw in front of you. And, those are the things you have to have guys that are going to compete on the perimeter. And that's where it all starts. The corner play, there's only so much help, as you know, the way football is played now. So the corners, they have to be the baddest men on the field. I mean, there ain't no two ways about it. They have to be, great cover guys. They have to be able to play on the line of scrimmage, not let people off the ball, and not let the people throw the ball over you. So, that takes an extraordinary, tough, well-schooled player to do that. Playing off, sometimes you don't want to, you want to give yourself, you don't want to do it the whole game, but sometimes you may just need a break. So playing off, whether you play on or off, cover, whether you have safety help or not, there's certain leverages that people have help. There's help somewhere. Players on the edges need to know where their help is and where they can't get beat. So leverage points are extraordinarily important. You saw us play a lot of too high. You saw us blitz on 3rd and down. Some things, when you take chances, you're always trying to change up your looks, you want to be able to disguise things and create one illusion and do something different. That's what football is. You just line up and play man-free, then they're going to know what you're in every snap. We used to be good enough to do that.
No joke, right?
Yeah. Very few coverages. That tells you we had some good Jimmies and Joes. We play a lot of this.
Tells you how important it is.
No joke.
It tells you, with those players, you let your players play. So, all that is part of the scheme and getting what your players do, what they do best. And when's the right time, to take chances. The problem with blitzing is if they pick you up, you got less guys in the coverage. So the secondary, it all fits together, JD, as you know. So everyone says, well, you need the secondary. You need great corner, but you need to put pressure on the quarterback.
Unity.
Yeah. You need
Unity.
This modern era of football, man, you need to be good at all 3 levels of your defense and cover a lot of field space.
No doubt.
And the offenses are extraordinary, and you're not going to see a lot of defenses played like it was 15 years ago. That's not going to happen.
Last thing, Twitter questions, and I want to thank all our fans. We got some amazing responses. So many people said to thank y'all. They love y'all. Definitely gonna miss you. At Real Johnny Hill, and Erin, you can comment on these if you want. What's at Real Johnny Hill wants to know, what is the hardest part about recruiting and evaluating defensive talent?
Well, location for defensive linemen they're the most valued players, and I would say corners would be second. I think those are two. You got to have them. The D line's got to be disruptive. Finding them, so our location, obviously in Oklahoma we're going to be restricted, but our name, our brand, or Oklahoma's name, it's not my name or my brand anymore, but Oklahoma's brand, and it lets you, you see the success over the last 3 or 4 years, being in 3 out of the last 4, Final Four games, puts you on the map. I was recruiting in Florida a lot more, here of late, and really developed some really inroads down there. So you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to go in areas that you normally don't do. So, that's what makes it hard getting those guys. And everyone's after you. When you're at Oklahoma, people have to realize you're recruiting against Ohio State. You're against kids in the South. You're recruiting against Clemson. You're recruiting against Alabama. And you're recruiting against Texas. I mean, that you're going up against, and Georgia. So you're going up against, you got to beat
the best of the best.
And that's what recruiting, that makes it the hardest, because the guys we go after are such elite, or wherever, a place like Oklahoma.
Yeah, Coach, you can always say you are always a Sooner. I don't care what
right.
anybody says. You are my coach.
For a while.
That's fine. Anywhere you go, you can be a Hawkeye all you want. That's fine. But in my heart, you're a Sooner. Erin, if you want to comment on that. What is the hardest part about recruiting defensive talent?
I think Mike hit the nail on the head. You're competing against the best of the best in a different aspect. You're in recruiting as opposed to playing on the field, and you have to, once again, in order to be successful, you have to be one step ahead of the competition, and that's just a business 101. So you always got to think outside of the box. And you have to be comfortable stepping out of your comfort zone and finding that talent.
Yep. I completely agree. At John Green 9 wants to know, Coach, what's your favorite memory at OU, and what was the hardest moment coaching with your brother Bob?
Wow, the national championship, that'll be, the greatest memory. The Tennessee game was close, man.
That's awesome.
I was hoping you were going to say that, because
the Alabama game we played down there will go down. There's certain games, man, that the Texas A&M game late coming
we laid
back,
it on them.
I mean, there's just so many extraordinary games that you're part of at this level. So that was hard. Coaching, the hardest part, with Bob is just people have. I've done it 3 different times. Coach with Bob, coach with Mark, and then coach with Bob again, and then Mark. So the family dynamic is very difficult. It's the hardest thing anyone will ever have to do. And I see why some things in nepotism are good. I mean, because it's hard. You want to do well. He's harder on you. There's just a lot of dynamics that goes into that. The whole thing puts a strain on your relationship. Me and Bob probably get, the good thing is we probably get along better now than we ever have, and that's good, because he was a great mentor. He was great when I was at Arizona, but again, when you work for somebody in this tough of an environment, there's always going to be strain. Mark had it with me. It hurt our personal relationship sometimes, because you're your boss, but they're still your brother. So the people don't. That's a tough dynamic.
Yeah, it is. Favorite memory at OU?
Oh my goodness. Oh man.
There's a lot of them, aren't there?
Yes, I would say. I always go back to the Tennessee game. It was an awesome environment, and the way we came back was just awesome. I also, whenever we played Baylor, at Baylor.
That was an amazing game.
I knew. I told Mike, and I was doing my own research. I wanted to beat Baylor so bad that I just wanted to beat them, and I knew we were going to, and I told him that.
Yeah, that was
before the season started. I said we're going to beat them.
Probably my favorite game too.
And sure enough, we did, and it
Went
was
down
just
there. It was a surreal moment.
It was awesome.
At Braden T 57, one player you wish you could have signed but got away.
Wow, man,
I saved the best one for last. You're going to really like the last one.
There's a lot of them. There's just so many. When you're at Oklahoma, you recruit a lot of great people. Oh gosh, who was the DB's name that? He's a doctor now. He played at Florida State. Myron Roll.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You talk about a guy that's elite and in a lot of different ways.
I figured you were going to pick a DB.
When he was like 8 years old.
That's awesome.
He came by and talked to the team a year ago or 2 years ago, and he was talking to me about some of those camps. It was great to see, and he's a big time guy now. So had a great career, and could have played in the NFL. Now he's a doctor. It tells you there's a lot of different ways to go for these kids, and football was a big part of his life. But what he's doing now, the effect is probably more lasting than he'll ever know.
Yeah. Any player you can think of, maybe you thought that Mike had in the bag, and we missed out on him.
Hard to think of now.
Man.
Here, I'm gonna let you look at this one first before you see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's.
Gosh.
There's been anyway. Just in my time, I mean, we brought up Michael Hawkins, but that was one you signed, Coach. But I mean, damn, the dude gets a pick six in his second game as a true freshman, and just I thought, just my opinion, that was just one player that just, if he would have had you, he would not have lasted 4 years. He would have been 3 and gone.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. Since I've been at Oklahoma with Mike, I've seen his impact on recruiting. I mean, he's a great recruiter. I can't think of anyone that he lost.
Losing Proctor, it hurt me.
Okay, maybe that, but
a year ago, I think, just because of in-state and we needed safety help.
That's always hard for me. I don't.
Losing in-state kids.
I would not. Zero tolerance for it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't lose in-state kids.
Program like this.
You shouldn't lose in-state kids.
Yeah. Impactful. That always hurts.
But Mike has done a really great job recruiting, and he never. Just from the outside looking in, and I'm not trying to be biased because he's my husband. I'm pretty hard on him sometimes. He didn't get enough credit for that. One of the people that I was super excited about him getting was 5-star Caleb Kelly, and he is
a great human being.
Yeah, if I could duplicate him, that's how my team. He would be the entire. I mean, he's just an amazing kid.
Yeah,
great family. That was probably the best. I was really happy for Mike.
Being a father figure to him and teaching him, that gave me satisfaction. His father was never a great big part of his life. His mom has raised him, his grandma. So, that was, you always, those are stories you always feel good about.
At Lisa Blunt, what a wonderful question from a woman. How about that one? She wants to know, basically, if you could put together a perfect defensive unit with OU players that you've coached, who would you use? An all-star defense.
Oh, my God. That's, the one I watched that, there was a replay of the 2 Alabama games we played before this one here, and I remember looking at Dan Cody, Dusty Dvoracek, Tommy Harris, and Jonathan Jackson all on the defensive line.
Damn.
I was like, are you kidding me? And then I was looking at Mitchell,
Teddy Lehman behind him.
And Mitchell.
Book.
Then I was looking at Antoine Kaysen, or not Antoine.
Woolfolk.
The safety too from Wake around. Who's the great, pretty looking safety? Yeah. Derek Strait, Brandon Everidge, the late Brandon Everidge, probably, one of the greatest players, probably undervalued, just what he meant to our team. Wolf, Zach Sanchez. God, I think of Zach here. Then I have to look at when came back my second time around.
Eric Stryker.
Stryker
what a great player.
Got to be in there. Those are Dan Cody, those guys, Teddy, Rocky Kalmus. I mean, Roy, the great Roy Williams. I mean, the usuals. I mean, those guys had something different about them that made them, kind of who they are. Obo had a lot of that, and Obos came late, and what they say, better late than never. And he was a big part of 2 years ago, what we did, having an edge rusher like that, Stryker, that's what people started to want to come here and be those edge guys coming off the edge, because these guys were so impactful to games. So guys like that, the usuals. There's a lot of guys that weren't as high profile, but really, did some great things for our team. That, and that's why Oklahoma has always been successful, and always will be.
And with you, Erin, a few defensive players that you could put together for a perfect defense that he's coached.
Oh my gosh! Well, everyone that Mike listed. Zach Sanchez, Obo, Eric Stryker, Caleb. Gosh.
There's some guys here that are coming on, but that's.
Yeah. Gosh. Roy.
Yeah. There's a lot
Dusty.
of them. There's a lot of them.
I mean,
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I remember. Even Ante Jones.
Yeah,
Can I say Brian Ballsworth?
Sure.
I mean, shoot.
Yeah. Well, again, if you can think of any,
the list goes
yeah,
on.
you just let me know. But go ahead.
There's a long list. I mean, it's never ending here with Oklahoma, and just not enough here recently. And that's what's got to change for Oklahoma to get back on top, and hopefully that'll happen. I think this new staff, that it was time, and I think the kids need a new beginning. I think they all need to start. Hopefully, they're all going to have to earn their way when somebody new comes in, and I think that'll be good for them.
Well, I mean this. I consider you all family. Family's not just there when you win. Family's not just there when you succeed. Family's not just there when it's convenient for them. We've been through a lot together. Even though this man, Erin, some of the greatest compliments were one-liners that I got from him. Hey, you knocked the shit out of people over there. Good job. I mean, I didn't even think he noticed me. I said it on my video. Only coach, go ahead.
Scout team would be a lot happier I'm not around anymore. I think I was harder on the scout team players than anybody.
Yeah, Jackson Ewells actually commented on that. So I was hoping you would pick a fullback. But, I mean, Coach, you had so many. You had DGB at one point on scout team, Kyler Murray. I mean.
Baker Mayfield.
Shit.
So, yeah, not an easy task.
Guys, it was because of me they became the guys.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
It's not Lincoln Riley. It was
not at all. That's it. But you laugh, but I got to tell the fans that the only reason I got put on varsity, one day we were doing inside drill, and 4 running backs couldn't get a yard on your defense. 4 fullbacks we went through could not block a linebacker. They said, JD, you want to go try? I really didn't want to go try it, Coach. But I used to have to hang. I went through 3 face masks my freshman year. I used to hang them up on my dorm wall. Jason Carter was my roommate who you brought in, and he just all those things. But I mean, we were gonna miss you, Coach. Just like it, and I don't want to compare it to the year you left for K-State, but the family atmosphere you brought, the type of recruiter that you are, the love that your players have for you, the discipline that we are going to miss you. So I wish you the best in your future endeavors, Coach. You truly do deserve it. If anybody deserves that damn job, it's you. So best luck.
And it's a lot of great memories, and very fortunate to, like you said, be around so many great coaches and players. Being around Bob, experiencing with family, and then see it transition. There's nothing stays the same forever, and that's what you have to understand. But always be a big part and have I only have none but great, memories. There'll be some of these tough, things to swallow here at the end, but that's life. You got to learn from them, and hopefully it'll motivate me to be a great coach again.
Erin, I thank you too. You've been a very good support to me. Obviously, this podcast, I can't even tell you what this means to me, but I thank you for your work, for being a rock for him. I know this could not have been easy. I'm so sorry for what you all went through. But I look at the positives, and I think that it just brings us all closer together. Absolutely. And I don't give a damn if y'all are 5 states away. You all have a friend, family member here in me at any time. And again, you guys you go win a few natties and get this guy a head coaching job, and just don't forget us little people when you get there.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. All right, then. I guess I don't even have to ask if he wants to be a head coach.
Thank you for having us on.
No problem. No
we
problem.
appreciate your support.
No, anytime. Again, this has been an amazing deal. Thank my producer, Jeff Roughface. I appreciate you guys. It's been another episode of Fullback U.
Thank you.
Thank you.